It's funny how life has a way of testing us, don't you think? Sometimes, what we fear the most ends up being the very thing that shapes us. Imagine finding yourself in a situation where a total stranger shows more kindness to your loved one than you ever believed possible. How would you feel? Grateful, or maybe a bit guilty? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and while you're at it, tell me where you're tuning in from. Are you watching from Chicago, Los Angeles, maybe somewhere overseas? I'd love to hear from all of you around the world. Let's jump right in. The diner sat on a quiet street, one of those places that didn't need flashy signs or loud music to draw people in. Its warm lights and the comforting scent of fresh coffee were enough to make folks wander inside. For James Walker, it wasn't just any diner. Technically, he owned several restaurants nationwide, each with a different name, but to the staff and patrons, he was just another anonymous figure who funded everything behind the scenes. James preferred to stay private, almost secretive. His 12-year-old daughter Lucy was the only person who truly mattered to him. Lucy had cerebral palsy. She used a wheelchair, couldn't talk, and needed help with even the simplest tasks like eating and dressing. Yet she had a smile that could brighten the darkest room and a laugh so full of joy that it was contagious. Still, James couldn't help feeling he failed her every day. He threw money at specialists and therapy programs, but he worked so much that he was never around. The guilt gnawed at him. Deep down, he worried he wasn't good enough. One evening, James decided to visit one of his diners undercover. He wanted to see how things were running, especially after hearing rumors that staff morale was low. Wearing a pair of jeans and a plain hoodie, he slipped into a booth by the corner, blending in with the dinner crowd. From there, he watched the servers bustling around, cooks shouting orders over the clatter of frying pans, and customers chatting over plates of burgers and fries. His attention was soon drawn to a new waitress named Avery. She moved with a calm efficiency, balancing trays of food and coffee mugs without missing a step. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her smile had a warmth that felt genuine. James watched as she approached a table occupied by a man and a young girl in a wheelchair. His heart nearly stopped. It was Lucy. James panicked for a split second, afraid Lucy had somehow been brought here without his knowledge. Was she in trouble? Was she hurt? But then he recognized the man at the table as Mark, Lucy's caregiver, whom James paid generously to look after her when he couldn't. Relief flooded him, followed by confusion. Why hadn't Mark mentioned they were coming here? And why did Avery seem so comfortable around Lucy? He kept watching, and what he saw next made his breath catch. Avery knelt beside Lucy's wheelchair and gently wiped some crumbs from her mouth with a napkin. When Lucy's hand struggled to grip her fork, Avery picked it up and fed her, bite by bite, speaking to her in a gentle, cheerful tone. Lucy giggled, reaching for Avery's arm as if they were best friends. Jealousy flared inside James. Not because Avery was doing anything wrong, but because she made it look so effortless, caring for Lucy in a way James had never managed. He clenched his fists under the table, anger simmering. He was mad at himself for not being the one at Lucy's side, feeding her, talking to her, making her laugh. Instead, he was hidden away, watching from a distance. Hours passed before he finally left the diner. He couldn't bring himself to confront Avery or Mark. But he couldn't stop thinking about it either. That night, James lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Memories poured in, times Lucy reached for him, and he brushed her aside because he was exhausted from work. The many evenings he'd closed his office door to shut out her cries, just because he couldn't handle the emotional toll. The guilt pressed down on him like a heavy blanket, suffocating him. Early the next day, James returned to the diner, this time as the owner. He asked Avery to meet him in a small back room that doubled as an office. She arrived looking nervous, fiddling with the hem of her apron. He sat across from her, trying to sound composed. "Avery," he said, his voice a little rough, "I need to talk to you about something." She nodded, waiting quietly. "Yesterday, I saw you helping a little girl here. She was in a wheelchair." Do you remember her? Avery's face softened instantly. Lucy, right? She comes in sometimes with her caregiver. She's a sweetheart. James studied her, trying to keep his emotions under control. Why did you help her? You didn't have to. Avery tilted her head. Because she needed help. Isn't that what we're supposed to do, look out for each other? Her answer felt like a punch to the gut. He swallowed hard, pushing back the sting in his eyes. You don't even know her. Avery shrugged, her expression earnest. I don't have to. Kindness doesn't always need a reason. James felt tears threaten again. He quickly blinked them away, embarrassed. Thank you, he managed, voice low. Thank you for taking care of my daughter when I wasn't there to do it. Avery's eyes widened. Your daughter? Lucy is your little girl? He nodded, unable to speak for a moment as shame washed over him. He braced himself for Avery's judgment, but all he saw in her face was empathy. She's lucky to have you, Avery said softly. Even if you think you're not doing enough, you're trying. That counts for something. Those words echoed in his mind long after their conversation. Over the next few weeks, James started making changes, not just at the diner, but in his own life. He offered Avery a new role as Lucy's personal caregiver, with a better salary and flexible hours so she could still work part-time at the diner. More importantly, he finally spent real time with Lucy. He learned to feed her properly, to bathe her, to help her get dressed. It was awkward and frustrating at first, but every time he felt overwhelmed, he remembered Avery's kindness and pressed on. One afternoon, he took Lucy for a stroll in a local park. As he pushed her wheelchair, she suddenly reached out and grabbed his hand. Her fingers were weak, but the gesture was enough to make him stop and kneel down beside her. Tears welled in his eyes as he kissed her forehead. I'm sorry, honey, he whispered. I'm so sorry I wasn't there for you. Lucy smiled, her eyes shining with love. In that instant, James realized it wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present, even when it was hard, even when he felt inadequate. Months later, James stood behind the diner's counter, quietly watching Avery serve a family at one of the tables. She laughed easily with them, her genuine warmth still lighting up the room. Lucy sat close by, contentedly coloring in a small notebook James had given her. Life wasn't flawless, but it was better, kinder, richer. As James looked around, he knew exactly what he wanted to share with anyone who would listen. Kindness doesn't cost a thing, but it can change everything. Don't wait until tomorrow to show someone you care. Do it right now, because sometimes the smallest act of compassion can leave the biggest impact. So, what about you? Could you see yourself stepping up the way Avery did? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you'd like to show a little extra support, tap the 3 dots near the share button and send a super thanks. February 2nd.